Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it comes from a translation of a message that I received a couple of days ago, and the message reads like this. Hello my brother, how are you? I once heard you tell of a story that there was someone who bought a taxi, but that person bought that taxi using someone else's human body parts. I have a story to share with you. I used to work as a prostitute for a very long time. I started working as a prostitute from a very young age. As someone who grew up in a border town, I was born and I was raised in Beitbridge. Growing up in Beitbridge, life was too quick because a lot of strangers will get into our town, then quickly move out of our town. So from a very young age, I already knew what I wanted to become in life, because I would see a lot of women that would come to our town. Then they will start to work as prostitutes. Those women, they used to get a lot of money. Life was too quick. In the morning, you could find yourself just washing the dishes at home. Then in the afternoon, a stranger will just pass you by and would ask you if you are willing to accompany him. Then that man would even tell you that you will be driving as far as to Johannesburg. So the man will tell you that he just wants a woman by his side, and you had to do it, all of this for the money. As I grew older, I had my clients, but most of my clients, they were truck drivers, but I avoided certain truck drivers, the ones that would drive all the way to DRC, because I know that they used something more like a charm that is called Congo dust. It is a powerful charm which they rub on their manhood. Before sleeping with you, what those truck drivers will do is that they'll be having in their truck that thing that they call Congo dust, which is a powdered charm, and they will take it, then they will rub it on their manhood. And when that truck driver starts sleeping with you, those men that uses these charms, they can last for more than 3 hours just being on top of you. But they used to pay a lot of good money because you will be working overtime. As for me, I avoided them. So what we will do is that a guy will book me, let's say if he had just finished loading in Johannesburg, and he will tell me that he wants to go with me maybe to Zambia or wherever he was supposed to go and deliver his load. Then there was this other man who paid such good money, but the way that he used to sleep with me was quite confusing, because whenever he was sleeping with me, he would never use his manhood. He would only use his fingers, and upon completing, he would start to lick his fingers. And that thing, my brother, it was so disturbing and nasty to me, but I just did it for the sake of money, because I was earning a lot of money. The company that he was working for back in South Africa, it was a company that paid really well. And the reason why I kept on dating that man, it was because I was fighting and I was trying to save up some money so that I can open up a bottle store. And I had told myself that if I managed to open up this bottle store, I wanted to stop being a prostitute. So whenever he would book me, I would just accept everything that he would ask from me. But money, my brother, will make you to do evil things. As usual, as I would be with him on his truck, one night he asked me why I still loved him, yet we had never had any normal intercourse ever since we had started dating. My brother, he had never used his manhood on me. He would only use his fingers. I told him that it was because I loved him so much, but he said, no, you are lying to me. You are still in this relationship with me because you love money so much. He said that in this world, there is no a normal woman who can love a man that will push his fingers into her back and lick all the dirt that will come from her back. Yes, my brother, this is what he used to do. There were many days whenever you would be at the border, you would encourage me not to bath. This is what he liked. And when I would be on his truck, And if he told me that he wanted to have intercourse with me, when we were having intercourse, what we will do is that I'll be bent on the passenger seat, then he will start to touch me all over until he will then push his finger into my back. And the whole day, my brother, without ever bathing, a lot of dirt will come out of there. Then he would start to lick his fingers. After licking his fingers, that is when he will give you a lot of money. So on that night, when he was asking me why I was still in love with him, and when I told him that I truly loved him, he said, you are lying, because there is not a normal woman who can ever tolerate these things that I am doing to you. It is because you are after money. That is why you tolerate all of those things that I do to you. And he said that if I was going to be honest with him, he would give me more money. At first, I tried pretending to be in love with him until I agreed that I was in this relationship only for the money. Since I was getting a lot of money because in their company, he was the only cross-border driver. After that discussion, we drove for many kilometers. I don't know for how many hours. And he was avoiding to have any conversation with me as he was driving, until we had reached this other truck stop. Once we were parked there, he told me that there was so much to be made if I was willing to assist him and to give him all of the things that he was going to ask from me. He said that if I helped him get whatever he wanted, I will be earning at least $1,000 a month. And at that time, my brother, I had just turned 20 years old. This was quite a lot of money to me, so I could not resist it. And he told me that I will only be able to get this money not in US dollars but in rands, because that was where most of his customers were. At first, I didn't understand when he told me that most of his clients, they were in South Africa. But as time went by, I began to understand the situation. Then he dropped me in a town called Masvingo. He told me that I was supposed to collect recently used condoms, and he told me that there was a woman who would come to collect me. I was then given a number, and I called that woman, who came and she took me to her house. My brother, the moment that we arrived at that woman's plot, I just even forgot that we were still in Zim. A house, even though it was built in the rural areas, it was so modern, and everything in her house showed how wealthy she was. She actually had these other two BMW cars that were always parked in her garage. Both of her cars, they had GP number plates. She only used them like once a year. And the more that I got to know these people, I then realized how deep I had gotten myself into these evil things and ceremonies, because at her house, a lot of evil ceremonies were performed. And all of those ceremonies, they were only performed indoors. A lot of people from different cultures, my brother, they would actually come so that they can get these ceremonies performed on them. What they would do is that they would go to a forbidden forest or those forbidden mountains, and they will slaughter a black goat whilst they will be staying on top of a mountain, and then they would wash their cars with blood from those goats, and we would spend so many days in the mountains. They would pretend like they will be camping outdoors, but they will be doing a lot of evil ceremonies. There were days when I will be told to stay at that woman's house, and I never liked it, because at that woman's house it was really hard to sleep. Whenever you would try to sleep, you will hear people that will be talking in the garage where those two cars were parked. Even though this woman had a lot of cars, but he had two BMWs, they had their own separate garage. On that night, when that man dropped me in Masvingo, then that woman came and she picked me up. She told me also what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to go to a nightclub, and this was quite easy for me since I knew all of the places, and most of the women knew me because I used to travel all the way from Beitbridge going to Masvingo so that I can sell my body. We used to sell our bodies on the street, and what I was supposed to do is that I had to pretend as if I was selling my body, and whilst I'll be standing with some of my co-workers, I was supposed to pick up all of the used condoms that we used to drop on the street, because what we will do is that after satisfying your customer, sometimes your customer will just throw away that used condom that will be full of his sperms. That first night, I picked up a lot until I had filled up a 2-liter bottle of Coke that I had cut in half. When it was around 3 a.m., that is when that woman came and she picked me up and she went with me to her house. She then placed those used condoms that I had given to her in a very special fridge. I don't think that one can buy that kind of a fridge from the shops, because the fridge, what it looked like, it was like one of those fridge that they used to store cold drinks in shops, but those ones, they are too big than the one that I saw in her house. It was quite small. It was even portable. I think that there were times that she would be traveling whilst that small fridge will be in her car, especially when she will be traveling to South Africa. I just suspected this, but I never saw her traveling with her fridge going to South Africa. So what she will do is that she will put those used condoms in that fridge. Then there were people who would come and collect those used condoms, and all of the men that would come to collect them, whenever you would look at those men, you could not even look at them twice, because they were quite strange and scary. Because of money, I chose to ignore everything that I was seeing, and I even recruited my younger sister at the time when I decided that it was time for me to quit. But my little sister, she was later killed after attempting to steal a child. I don't know what really happened, but I only heard that they were tracked down. There was a shootout between the police and the guys that she was traveling with, and she was killed soon after crossing the border. When the car that she was traveling in was searched, they were found to have 2 guns and a cooler box that had a human hand inside of it, but that human hand, it was a child's hand. Before my younger sister had died, I had asked her how she had managed to acquire so much wealth in a short period of time, because she only worked for about a month. Then she called me one day when she was in South Africa. She was so excited, and she told me that she was at a car dealership and she was getting ready to purchase a car. Later on, that is when I found out that she had bought herself a quantum taxi. She said that she had been working so hard. That is why she had managed to save up the money so that she can buy that quantum taxi. But after she was killed, that is when I then understood what was happening. But when she was killed, that woman who stayed in Masvingo just vanished. When I went to her house, I found out that the house was empty, and I failed to get hold of that man who had made me to join that group. I did make some money, yes, and I am living above the poverty line, but guilty eats me up alive each and every day and night, and I blame myself for making my sister link up with these people. That man once told me of a story of how he carried a human head, and he told me that as he was traveling with that human head, it was able to talk. He had gotten hold of this human head from this other traditional healer just across the border between Zimbabwe and Zambia, and he told me that the head had been bought by a very powerful person, but until we separated, he didn't even want to tell me who had purchased that human head. He only said, if I tell you, then you will instantly know that person. After the death of my sister, I struggled so much with depression, but I have never told anyone my secret. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received. Then I had to ask one of our admins to give us a translation. Strange things do happen in this world.